Good day, everyone. We are the Group 5 and we're going to report the Republic Act of 9155, which is the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001.
Republic Act Number 9155, also known in Section 1, Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. Section 2, Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality basic education, and to make such education accessible to all by providing all Filipino children a free and compulsory education in the elementary level and free education in the high school level. Such education shall also include alternative learning system for out-school youth and adult learners. It shall be the goal of basic education to provide them with the skills, knowledge, and values they need to become caring, self-reliant, productive, and patriotic citizens. Meaning providing an effective quality education and at the same time can reach all children and youth. Also, education shall provide an alternative learning system to reach all youth and everywhere. The school shall be the heart of the formal education system. It is where children learn, meaning school must be the central of learning, not although children learn in houses, but it needed to prioritize in school because it is the area that they will learn. Governance of basic education shall begin at the national level. It is the regions, divisions, schools, and learning centers, herein referred to as the field of offices, where the policies and principles for the governance of basic education shall be translated into programs, projects, and services developed, adopted, and offered to fit local needs. It is stated that should ensure the effectiveness of one program that school and learning center implement because it will reflect in the learning of the student while they are studying. Also, stated that national or higher levels should manage the governance of basic education. What are those national or higher levels? It could be it is the regions, divisions, schools, and learning centers. They are also called field offices. Section 3, Purposes and Objectives. A. Serves as the basis of the basic education to guide them to achieve one goal, and which is to provide quality education and to attain higher learning outcomes. Okay, letter B. To allocate the roles and responsibilities of national level to guide them to achieve certain goal. Letter C. Emphasizes that the education institution must be centralized to the development of Filipino and to pass generation by generation. Letter D. Must address the need of attention and to identify how the community will deal with school and learning centers with proper action and correct manner. Letter E. It allows teachers or facilitators to teach outside their capability to deal with their skills and knowledge, and to challenge themselves to know what are the needs of the students after they met them. Letter F. To seek help from local initiatives, to give their full support in educational institution, to be able to perform their full capacity and to achieve its goal. Also, to encourage them to keep their support up to future matters. Letter G. It is focusing on how the learners develop and grow school learning center. Give and provide the area that students will still learn and improve their knowledge.
Section 4. Definition of terms. For purposes of this Act, the terms or phrases used shall mean or be understood as follows. A. Alternative learning system. From the word itself, alternative, meaning the replacement, option, choice, or substitute. This implies that if the formal face-to-face education cannot be utilized, there are still ways to give knowledge and education to students. B. Basic education. This means that the education should meet basic learnings, including childhood, elementary, and high school education. And it also includes the alternative learning system for out-of-school people, yung mga hindi nakapag-enroll o walang kakayahang mag-enroll sa eskwelahan. At basic education with those with special needs or may mga psychological problems. C. Cluster of schools is a group of schools which are geographically contiguous and brought together to improve the learning outcomes. Geographically contiguous means that it is the geographically land divisions not being interrupted by land or water. At ito ang mga lugar were brought together to provide a better learning outcomes. D. Formal education. It is the learning system on the general concept of elementary and high school. And in order to rejoin or progress to the next educational level, there must be a certification at the end of any level. E. Informal education. While the formal education is learned at schools or universities, informal education, however, is the learnings or learnings, attitudes, and skills that a person acquired from life itself. F. Integrated schools. The schools strive to achieve a religious balance of students, teachers, and governors, and acknowledge and respect the cultural diversity they present. G. Learner. Learner. It is a person who wants or who is learning a subject or skill. A trainee, rookie, or simply a student. H. Learning center. Learning center, it is a facility or a face-to-face venue, a physical space to give learning for out-of-school youths and adults. Learning center, this is the pinaka-physical di lugar or yung place where the out-of-school youths study. Learning facilitator. The person who is responsible for facilitating or supervising the learners. A person who helps, guides, or manages a group of people to work better, such as teachers, professors, etc. Non-formal education. While the formal education is acquired at school and informal education is learned through our daily life experiences, non-formal education is acquired outside the formal education premises only to provide selected types of learning to a segment of the population. Quality education. It is the standard or class, the degree of excellence of the education. It is about the relevance, usefulness, reliability of the knowledge or education. Kung gaano ba kaganda yung education, I guess. School. An education institution designed to provide learning, and it is usually in physical and cyber site where students can receive instructions from their teachers. It is, I think, an example of learning center. School head. It is a person responsible for administrative and instructional supervision of the school or cluster of schools, the staff of a school with heavy responsibility in managing the school. A simple as that.
Everyone, I'm your reporter for today, and my name is May Santos, and my report is all about the Chapter 1 of Republic Act 9155, which is the governance for basic education from Section 5 to Section 7A. Chapter 1 of Republic Act 9155, Governance of Basic Education. Section 5, Principles of Shared Governance. Shared governance is a principle which recognizes that every unit in the education bureaucracy has a particular role, task, and responsibility inherent in the office and for which it is principally accountable for outcomes. So shared governance is like a regulation or a law that acknowledges every component or unit of education has a particular role, task, and responsibility they needed to uphold to. Next one is letter B. The process of democratic consultation shall be observed in the decision-making process at appropriate levels. Feedback mechanisms shall be established to ensure coordination and open communication of the central office with the regional, division, and school levels. Letter C. The principles of accountability and transparency shall be operationalized in the performance of functions and responsibilities at all levels. And letter D. The communication channels of field offices shall be strengthened to facilitate flow of information and expand linkage with other government agencies, local government units, and non-governmental organizations for effective governance. So all of these are formulated to promote a systematic way of involving different units in order to organize the education. Next is Section 6, Governance. The Department of Education, Culture, and Sports shall henceforth be called the Department of Education. It shall be vested with authority, accountability, and responsibility for ensuring access to, promoting equity in, and improving the quality of basic education. Arts, culture, and sports shall be as provided for in sections 8 and 9 hereof. So, governance meaning the action or the manner of how governing works or how you lead an organization. And the Department of Education has the authority, accountability, and responsibility in order to work the education department. And lastly, Section 7, Powers, Duties, and Function. The Secretary of the Department of Education shall exercise overall authority and supervision over the operations of the department. And by the way, our Secretary of Education is Leonor Mirasol Magdalis Briones. Next is the national level. In addition to his or her powers under existing laws, the Secretary of the Education shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. Number 1. Formulating national educational policies. Number 2. Formulating a national basic education plan. Number 3. Formulating national educational standards. Formulating means to claim or declare. Number 4. Monitoring and assessing national learning outcomes. And number 5. Undertaking national educational research and studies. Number 6. Enhancing the employment status, professional competence, welfare, and working conditions of all personnel of the department. And lastly, number 7, enhancing the total development of learners through local and national programs and or projects. Next is the Secretary of Education shall be assisted by not more than 4 undersecretaries and not more than 4 assistant secretaries whose assignments, duties, and responsibilities shall be governed by law. There shall be at least 1 undersecretary and 1 assistant secretary who shall be career executive service officers chosen from among the staff of the department.
Section 7B, Regional Level. There shall be as many regional offices as may be provided by law. Each regional office shall have a director, an assistant director, and an office staff for program promotion and support, planning, administrative, and fiscal services. Consistent with the national educational policies, plans, and standards, the regional director shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. That is, the regional level has a regional offices which they have organizational chart or director, assistant, and staff. Director has an authority and he or she will be take the responsibility. Number 1, defining a regional educational policy framework which reflects the values, needs, and expectation of the communities they serve. Number 2, developing a regional basic education plan so that the education plan will implement more standard. Developing the regional educational standards with a view towards benchmark for international competitiveness. Number 4, monitoring, evaluating, and assessing regional learning outcomes. Number 5, undertaking research projects and developing and managing region-wide projects which may be funded through official development assistance and or other funding agency. Number 6, ensuring strict compliance with prescribed national criteria for the recruitment, selection, and training of all staff in the region and divisions. Number 7, formulating in coordination with the Regional Development Council the budget to support the regional educational plan, which shall take into account the educational plans of the divisions and districts, so that developing new projects will benefit the entire region of the budget, especially to the financial agencies. Number 8, determining the organization component of the divisions and districts and approving the proposed staffing pattern of all employees in the divisions and districts. Hiring places and evaluating all employees in the regional office except for the position of assistant director. When the staff is hired, they should also have strict training. They should have trained before entering that kind of work. Number 10, evaluating all schools, division superintendents, and assistant division superintendents in the region. Planning and managing the effective and efficient use of all personnel, physical and fiscal resources of the regional office, including the professional staff development. Number 12, managing the database and management information system of the region. Number 13, approving the establishment of public and private elementary and high schools and learning centers. And number 14, the last one, is performing such other functions as may be assigned by proper authorities. These are all, the others are self-explanatory.
Section 7, letter C, division level. A division shall consist of a province or a city which shall have a school division superintendent, at least one assistant school division superintendent, and an office staff for programs, promotions, planning, administrative, fiscal, legal, ancillary, and other support service. Consistent with the national education policies, plans, and standards, the school division superintendent shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. 1. Development and implementing vision. 1. Developing and implementing division education development plans. 2. Planning and managing the effective and efficient use of all personnel, physical and fiscal resources of the division, including professional staff development. 3. Hiring, placing, and evaluating all vision supervisor and school district supervisors, as well as all employees in the division, both teaching and non-teaching personnel, including school heads, except for the assistant division superintendent. 4. Monitoring and the utilities of funds provided by the national government and the local government units to the school and learning centers. 5. Ensuring compliance of quality standards for the basic education program, and for this purpose, strengthening the role of division supervisors as subject areas specialists. 6. Promoting awareness of all adherence by all school and learning centers to accreditation standard prescribed by the Secretary of Education. 7. Supervising the operations of all public and private elementary, secondary, and integrated school and learning centers. And number 8, performing such other functions as may be assigned by proper authorities. D. School district level. Upon the recommendation of the school division superintendents, the regional director may be Section 7 letter D, school district level. Upon the recommendation of the school division superintendents, the regional director may establish additional school district within a school division. School district already existing at the time of all passage of this law shall be maintained. A school district shall have a school district supervisor and an office staff for program promotion. The school district supervisor shall be responsible for 1. Providing professional and instructional advice and support to the school heads and teachers, facilitators of school and learning centers in the district or clusters thereof. 2. Curricula supervision, and 3. Performing such other functions as may be assigned by proper authorities.
Chapter 1, Section 7, Letter E, School Level. There shall be a school head for all public elementary schools and public high schools or a cluster thereof. The establishment of integrated schools from existing public elementary and public high schools shall be encouraged. The school head, who may be assisted by an assistant school head, shall be both an instructional leader and administrative manager. The school head shall form a team with the school teachers, learning facilitators for delivery of quality educational programs, projects, and services. A core of non-teaching staff shall handle the school's administrative, fiscal, and auxiliary services. Consistent with the national educational policies, plans, and standards, the school heads shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. First, setting the mission, vision, goals, and objectives of the school. Second, creating an environment within the school that is conducive to teaching and learning. Third, implementing the school curriculum and being accountable for higher learning outcomes. Fourth, developing the school educational program and school improvement plan. Fifth, offering educational programs, projects, and services which provide equitable opportunities for all learners in the community. 6. Introducing new and innovative modes of instruction to achieve higher learning outcomes. 7. Administering and managing all personal, physical, and fiscal resources of the school. 8. Recommending the staffing complement of the school based on its needs. 9. Encouraging staff development. 10. Establishing school and community networks and encouraging the active participation of teachers, organizations, non-academic personnel of public schools, and parents-teachers community associations. 11. Accepting donations, gifts, bequests, and grants for the purpose of upgrading teachers' learning facilitators' competencies, improving and expanding school facilities, and providing instructional materials and equipment. Such donations or grants must be reported to the appropriate district supervisors and division superintendents, and lastly, perform such other functions as may be assigned by proper authorities. The Secretary of Education shall create a promotions board at the appropriate levels which shall formulate and implement a system of promotions for schools division supervisors, school district supervisors, and school heads. Promotion of school heads shall be based on educational qualification, merit, and performance rather than on the number of teachers, learning facilitators, and learning in the school. The qualification, salary grade, status, employment, and welfare and benefits of school heads shall be the same for public, elementary, secondary, and integrated schools. No appointment to the positions of regional directors, regional directors, school division superintendents, and assistant schools division superintendents shall be made unless the appointee is a career executive service officer who preferably shall have risen from the ranks.
In Section 8, it discusses the transfer of cultural agencies and states that the Commission ng Wikang Pilipino, National Historical Institute, Record Management and Archive Office, and the National Library shall now be administratively attached to the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or NCCA, and no longer with the Department of Education. Now let's move on to the Section 9, which is the abolition of the Bureau of Physical Education and School Sports. And it states that all functions, programs, and activities of the Department of Education related to the sports competition shall be transferred to the Philippine Sports Commission, or PSC. The program for school sports and physical fitness shall remain part of the basic education curriculum. So the Bureau of Physical Education and the School Sports, or BPESS, is hereby abolished. The personnel of the BPESS, presently detailed with the PSC, are hereby transferred to the PSC without loss of rank, including the plantilla position they occupy, and all others BPE SS personnel should be retained by the department. So, in Section 10, the Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Budget and Management jointly promulgated the guidelines of the allocation, distribution, and utilization of resources provided by the national government for the field offices, taking into consideration the uniqueness of the working condition of the teaching services, shall approve of this act within 90 days. And the Secretary of Department of Education shall ensure that resources appropriated for the field offices are adequate and that resources for school personnel, school desks and textbook, and the other instructional materials intended are allocated directly and released immediately by the Department of Budget and Management to said offices. Now let's move on to the Section 11, wherein the Secretary of the Department of Education, subject to civil service laws and regulations, shall issue appropriate personnel policy, rules, and regulations that will best meet the requirements of the teaching profession, taking into consideration the uniqueness of the working conditions of the teaching service. In Section 12, the Commission on Audit in the issuance of audit rules and regulations that will govern the utilization of all resources, as well as the liquidation, recording, and reporting thereof, shall take into account the different characteristics and distinct features of the department's field offices, its organizational setup, as well as the nature of the operation of schools and learning centers. Now let's go to the Section 13, which is the governance in the ARMM. In this section, the Regional Education Secretary for the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARMM, shall exercise similar governance authority over the divisions, districts, schools, and the learning centers in the region as may be provided in the Organic Act without prejudice to the provision of Republic Act No. 9054 as entitled, an Act to strengthen and expand the Organic Act for the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, as amended for the purpose Republic Act No. 6734 entitled, an Act providing for the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao.
Section 14 of Chapter 5, Rules and Regulations. The Secretary of Education shall promulgate the implementing rules and regulations within 90 days after the approval of this Act, provided that the Secretary of Education shall fully implement the principle of shared governance within 2 years after the approval of this Act.
Separability clause. If for any reason, any portion or provision of this Act shall be declared unconstitutional, other parts or provisions hereof which are not affected thereby shall continue to be in full force and effect. This implies that a clause, as in contract, specifies that clauses or contracts are particularly severable or separable, which means it is capable of being treated as separate from a whole legal right or obligation.
Section 16. Repealing clause. All laws, decrees, executive orders, rules, and regulations, part or parts thereof, inconsistent with the provisions of this Act, are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. Repealed means revoke.
Section 17, Effectively Clause. This act shall take effect 15 days following its publication in at least 2 newspapers of general circulation. So it's simply stated that after the 2 newspapers published, this program or this law should be effectively distributed in 15 days.
So that would be all for today, and I hope you learned a lot about Republic Act number 9155, which is the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. Thank you for watching, and God bless.